see Alicia is not here, so I'm taking over just to start this meeting. Leonard, we are grateful for this wonderful presentation. Even thinking about this subject makes us interested. And this will be recorded. And I guess we can start, right?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again. And there's tons of things that I'm always obsessively interested in learning more about. Things I'm adding to my list of trades and stuff. A number of things I want to be sure to cover. But most importantly, I want to see what types of things you're interested in, any health challenges you have, any health questions or dilemmas that have come up.
If you could speak louder, that would be wonderful.
Oh, sure, thank you.
Yes, that's excellent. Thank you, Leonard.
Sure. So let me go around and ask people some things that you're looking for more information about, treatments, preventions, answers, health tips, and I'll try to focus on those as best I can, or tell you where to find more information about those things.
I pretty much just came with an open mind. I didn't have anything in particular, just generally learning from me tonight.
Okay, nice. And you mentioned to eat right for your blood type, which I'll touch upon.
We've already talked.
Okay.
So, and there were a couple of things on your sheet that I have questions about. Do you want me to ask those now?
Sure.
Okay. I see the avoid farm fish and eggs. So eggs are no good?
Going into that in more detail, I'm seeing conventional eggs.
Oh, not organic.
Correct.
Not organic.
Correct.
Okay.
Although that reminds me, one of the most important things for cardiovascular health, for keeping clean arteries, is to only eat eggs that are boiled or poached. Maybe over easy, cooked rare at low temperature, but really any other types of eggs greatly cause clogged arteries. It's because when the cholesterol in the egg yolk is heated at a high temperature and exposed to oxygen, it oxidizes. And cholesterol per se does not necessarily clog our arteries, but oxidized cholesterol does. So that's the real culprit. Along with powdered milk and I think powdered eggs also.
So the organic egg will behave in a different way when you...
Unfortunately, no. It's much healthier in other ways. But
Exactly.
Still,
It's
you
still
need
the
to
same
just
thing.
boil or poach it.
Okay.
Or once in a while over easy, like cooked. Or raw egg yolks if they're organic.
It sounds
Or
like
egg whites. Egg yolks.
Egg yolk.
yeah. So it sounds like sunny side up, then it's fine.
Yeah, I'm very
Even that's pushing it.
I'm not exactly a gourmet chef, to put it very lightly.
That sunny side up is less cooked than over easy. Basically, you cook it and the egg yolk is all fully runny.
Yeah,
The yolk
and to
is-
keep the yolk not exposed to air as much as possible, that's the critical thing. And with eggs in particular, and cooking in general, really, the lower the temperature and the less you can cook something, the better, with few exceptions.
Well, poaching will only go up to 212 max,
Oh, right.
whereas frying can get up to
Water.
over 400. So that's when the various... cholesterol is a lipid, and it also will start breaking down at that temperature. So it's like any oil over a certain temperature, they just start breaking down.
Yeah.
I did have one other question too. I noticed that you said that coconut milk is good in terms of the beverages. I
Yes.
noticed there's a lot of coconut waters in the stores now. What's the difference between coconut water and coconut milk?
Oh, I can tell you that.
Please, because I probably can't.
Okay, coconut water is what comes from coconut fruit. When you make a hole in coconut fruit, that's the water.
Okay.
And it's high in electrolytes. It's very
Okay.
good for electrolytes. Coconut milk is just coconut, the meat of the nut, that is grounded, mushed. And that's what it is.
Okay. So, in terms of beverages,
That's a
I
cooked.
think you both are
both
healthy.
okay?
The
Yes.
beverage is the cooked coconut meat.
I see.
I would like to agree with Bojena because when I lived in Florida, I raised and grew coconut trees.
Really?
So you are spot on.
Thank you.
As far as I know, coconut everything is healthy. Just about every coconut product around.
So then we'll talk offline.
Yes.
How to open that bad boy and get
It's
that out.
it's a major task for the general consumer in the store. It's a major task, and we always valued the coconut water because I'd get it right off the tree, split the thing open, drink it. It is so good. I mean, it's ridiculously good. And what you get in the stores, it's I'm going to put it almost a fad, almost. It's basically good. It's very expensive. You only get a certain amount out of the nut itself. So it's a kind of a Whole Foods designer fatty thing of the month thing. It's not bad. And make sure it has no preservatives or anything in it. I just consider it to be really expensive. And if you like it, people pay $4 for a cup of coffee. Why not $4 for some coconut water? Same thing. I also raise bananas and avocados and mangoes and oranges and limes and all those tropical fruits.
Nice. I want to highlight avocado. I think is an exceptionally healthy food.
Yeah.
Bojena, do you have any questions? Or?
H. pylori.
Okay. Ever?
Heavy metals in the body,
Okay.
particularly lead, mercury. Yeah, maybe these two. And my interest is in alternative approaches how to extract this from the body. Just from a purely chemical point of view, I think that distilled water should be partially helpful because it is hungry water. So when you drink distilled water, it tends to absorb everything what is water soluble, but it shouldn't be just main drink because in water we need all those dissolved minerals. But I would like to know what else besides specific vitamins.
Sure.
Otherwise, just if you take medicine prescribed, it's just $14 a sip. It's
That's
extremely expensive.
specifically for removing heavy metals.
Yeah,
Okay,
heavy
sure, I'll be
metals.
glad to talk about that.
Heavy metals is my concern at the moment.
Sure, it's an important one for everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like you to talk about the issues of gastroesophageal reflux disease. There, at the top of the esophagus, there is a valve. At the bottom, where it connects to the stomach, there's another valve. If those get compromised, to restore those back to health.
Okay.
I'm vegetarian, so I'm looking for maybe some substitutes for like fish oil or things like that don't seem like there's
Flax.
Sure.
So you'd like plant-based substitutes
right
for the essential fatty acids. Yeah.
Thank you.
Like DHA, because you need. See, I'm a vegetarian too. We need DHA.
Okay, well that's
Sure, I'll be glad to talk about
Okay,
vegetarian
thank you.
substitutes.
I'm interested in a couple things, but one is Lyme disease. Testing for without having to go to a doctor as possible. And I think in one of your points here, but I should have marked it, you said something about, I got the impression it was using, is it called live blood testing?
Yes, live blood analysis,
Analysis, yeah,
drug
yeah.
field microscopy.
And I was wondering if that is helpful in also determining if a person has Lyme.
Okay.
It's probably something else, but that caught my eye. Maybe it'll come to me.
No questions yet? Okay, great. That's plenty to work with. I sometimes worry that people won't have enough questions, but that's great. And please ask more. I'm sure as we talk, it'll bring up more questions. And like that.
There's a
What
question.
time are we aiming to wrap up? Around?
9:30.
Okay.
Would it be enough time for you?
Yes.
A source of spices like turmeric, curcumin, that would not be adulterated,
Okay.
if there is such a thing around here, or maybe online. I just have read that, especially even sourced from places like India, sometimes they come with other stuff in them.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah. I can see a few basic things. One thing I want to make sure I don't forget. I would not get herbs from China unless you know the company
Right.
and trust it.
Okay. But any suggestions for sourcing?
Yeah, good source of spices.
And
herbs.
teas, like the cinnamon, cardamom kind of teas, same issue. I read about
Okay.
those.
Yeah, good question. I'll answer as best I can.
Great.
Also, if you could remind me like 5-10 minutes before the time's about 10, in case I get so wrapped up, I
Sure,
lose track of time.
no problem.
Sure. One general...
If you could speak louder, please.
Oh, yes, thank you. And more deeply. Matthew mentioned the Eat Right for Your Blood Type, which most people have probably heard of. A lot of controversy about it. It was a huge fad, huge intense adherence, still a lot, and tons of people totally dismissing it as pseudoscience, no evidence for it, etc. And I'd say there's still that, it's not like the big in fad at the moment, but it's still a lot of controversy and polarization. And I find myself very frustrated by polarization and compelled to try to find exactly how are both sides right, or exactly where in the middle does the truth lie. And Eat Right for Your Blood Type is something I still don't feel resolved about, but I'm pretty clear that there is significant validity to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not as valid or as highly reliable or as primary a factor as Dr. D'Adamo emphasizes, or as a lot of people seem to think. Yes?
One of the reasons that I certainly was aware of it when it came out, and he was pretty adamant that for my blood type, I could not possibly be a vegetarian. It's almost like a blanket statement. And so I looked at it as a flawed premise on his part.
Same with me.
On the other hand, there are preferences. Like my blood is 0, and I am a meat eater, and my husband is B, and he can live on grains and no meat. But it's not. Those are preferences, and I like it. I cannot actually probably live without meat.
I did find it helpful for me, but part of what I think he left out was evolutionary biology, where certain cultures and things like that, despite the blood types, you've had many, many generations of certain food patterns. So, I mean, anybody who makes a blanket statement that this applies across the board, I think is bought into their own science and
Right.
blind. But in terms of trends, I found it useful to me, but I don't buy off 100% on it. And I don't buy off on 100% of anybody's work, to be honest. That's part of my personality.
I agree. I think there's a lot of wisdom, not far beyond blood type, what you said, that most things are trends, not 100% correlations. And there's so much individual variation in terms of vegetarian versus non-vegetarian, raw versus cooked, in 100 other dimensions.
A book that I found that he had was the the blood type diet, there's something, the metabolic type diet, which I
Yes.
believe has a lot more, it's more encompassing. I think there's more intelligence behind it. Familiar with it? Metabolic type diet? Or it's metabolic typing is what the title of the book is.
Yeah.
I think his science is much better. That's how I believe.
Yeah, you beat me to that. I was going to say that that's a similar and somewhat related and I think much more reliable thing to go by.
I think he tends to calibrate much more to the individual, whereas, with the blood type, very cut and dried. Whereas metabolic typing asks many, many, many questions to calibrate how that person's living their life and also how certain foods affect them. So I think it's a much more accurate way of determining what's more crucial for that person.
Yes.
It's not blanket, it calibrates to the individual.
Yes, and the individual could even change.
Yes.
And with blood type, I would not blindly start eating a ton of red meat just because you're type O, or go strict vegan just because you're type A, among other things. There's some correlation there, I think. What is more often valid is the foods he tells you to avoid for your blood type. There's exceptions, there's people who do fine with almost all of them, but a lot of people have problems with those and don't realize it. Someone told me that she's found really helpful. She tells people to eliminate all the foods that he tells to eliminate for your blood type for 2 weeks and see if you feel much better. And if you do, then try introducing them one at a time and see exactly which ones.
Are you familiar with the pulse test?
Vaguely, yes.
Where
very useful.
you try to get yourself somewhat fasting. So
Yes.
you kind of start from scratch. You eat a food that may be suspect, and what you do is you take your pulse before you eat it, take your pulse after you eat it. If your pulse increases more than a certain percentage, that means your body is struggling with it. So you try to keep it below. So that's the pulse test. Been around for many, many years. Once again, you calibrate to yourself. There's no dogma. It's you calibrate because your body. It's almost like kinesiology. The body tells you right away if it's okay with it or not.
Yes, really useful test. And food allergies are a big problem. And people seem to have the idea that if they don't break into hives from eating something, they must not be allergic. But virtually everyone has subclinical food allergies to certain foods. I think I've met one person who didn't come up allergic to anything, but that's it.
That's the second one. I'm not allergic to anything.
Did you have a comprehensive blood test where they send your blood to the lab and test it for like 500 different substances?
No, but I hate testing. I'm a chemist. I hate testing.
Oh.
But I'm not sure that it works because I did it and it came out that I'm not allergic to shrimp. And I am because I have allergic reaction to it right away after I eat it. So.
Interesting. It's the first person I've heard of who has a false negative on it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that I am
It was
not
very
because
strange.
I never really experienced the allergy for anything what I eat.
Oh, that's great.
On the other side, I eat only home cooked meals and I cook myself, so maybe that's why.
That probably helps. And a couple things about food allergies, we tend to crave the foods that we're allergic to, which I was shocked to learn. And it kind of like double whammy along with that. If you eat the same food every day, you're more likely to become allergic to it. Some people recommend a 4-day rotation diet, not eating the same day more than 4 days apart from each other.
This is interesting.
I don't think that's necessary, but the more you can vary your food, the better. And some of the most common food allergens are dairy, particularly cow dairy, wheat, corn, peanuts.
Peanuts are big. There's a lot of aflatoxins in the peanuts. They're not
Yeah,
clean to
that too.
begin with.
I think peanuts are really best avoided all in all. The same with corn, all in all. And my guideline is also to basically avoid wheat except for Ezekiel products. There's a lot of exceptions in both directions of that, but that's my kind of rule of thumb.
So can you highlight the Ezekiel? Why you really like Ezekiel product?
Yes, because it's sprouted.
Okay.
Sprouting removes, for the most part, the gluten from wheat. Unfortunately, Ezekiel started adding a tiny bit of gluten back, which I'm so sad about. But it's the sprouting removes the gluten. And there's other harmful substances and grains that are important to remove before cooking, and they can be removed by sprouting, soaking the grains overnight, or fermenting them. Same with beans and nuts and seeds, but grains are a really important thing to sprout, ferment, or soak before cooking them. Breakfast cereals are particularly bad because they're cooked at high temperatures without being first soaked. Cooked ones like oatmeal are fine, and I think Ezekiel ones are fine, but other ones aren't. If you could wait about 20 seconds, Wendy, just for adrenal support, low carb diet, B complex, especially pantothenic acid, B5, and vitamin C. Take several times throughout the day.
Thank you. It's the mold in here that I
The mold is really strong.
get
That's a
invested
great
in.
segue. I'll talk about mold. Anything you can do to remove mold for your house, even if it costs $20,000, it's worth it.
Thank you. I'm sorry I have to leave.
Sure. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Email me any questions.
Thank you.
I remember Dr. McCool was saying that if you have stagnant water in your house for a long period of time, you're going to get mold. And anything to get rid of mold is a very good investment.
And will you talk about mold and removal or no?
A little bit.
Because here I can see mold.
I'm not an expert in removal, but I'll try.
Okay.
Tea tree oil is good. Bleach, if you have to, is worth using for it. Vinegar works mildly, but if you have heavy-duty mold, I would use something stronger.
Just some clarification about mold, because there's like the mold that we're smelling, which is not near as dangerous. There's certain molds, black molds and things like that, that are absolutely toxic, and if you should almost get the EPA to clean it out.
Yes, that's entirely accurate. Sadly, I don't know a whole lot more than what you just said, though.
Oh, because that's about the length of what I know about it.
Yeah.
If your house is that badly contaminated, you have it decontaminated with something called digoxin, and it's $20,000 or more. They completely encircle the whole house. It's the same process they used at the Hart Senate office building after the anthrax, and the bill for that was over $150 million for that one building.
Wow.
But it works.
50
million for the building, but it works. It does the job.
Yeah. I was going to segue from Eat Right for Your Type, which incidentally, I've heard that it correlates pretty well with allergy foods, which I covered the basics of. I want to segue to metabolic typing. It's extremely important. People talk about I'm a quote protein eater, I'm a quote meat type eater versus I'm a quote carb or vegetarian type eater. Those are roughly synonymous with metabolic typing. Some of the principal categories are sympathetic dominant, which means your sympathetic nervous system is dominant. There are people who are kind of like hyperreactive, hypermotivated, anxious, moving, which tend to be the vegetarian type eaters. The sympathetic nervous system is dominant versus parasympathetic dominant. Parasympathetic is the relaxation nervous system, and they tend to be the meat eaters. But you can't always tell from a person's personality.
Is there a book on metabolic typing?
Yes.
It's called metabolic typing.
Oh.
Yeah,
I forget the author, unfortunately.
Wolcott.
Oh.
It's Wolcott. That's
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
I think there's probably several books, but that's the key one, and that's the.
And you can type yourself from.
Yes. If you look on the back of the sheet, the one at the top that says lifestyle guide, the side that says lifestyle guidelines. The fourth line, it says metabolic typing. websites, the first two websites in parentheses, the nutritional type being Mercola and the Dr. Kelly, those are both free online tests. And Mercola, when you have to join Mercola's mailing list, which I highly recommend anyway, but those will give you, Kelly has just a description of each of them, which you can type yourself pretty well from the description. Mercola actually has a question and answer test, and you can see exactly what you are and to what degree, which is really useful.
Is the Mercola on the Health Excel?
No, the Health Excel, that's a separate website, which I think costs money.
And the Mercola, I don't see it's, okay. Just go on Mercola.
There's nothing wrong with paying money, Leonard.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And some of the paid ones will give you very multidimensional. They'll look at parasympathetic versus sympathetic. They'll look at your fast versus slow oxidation. They'll look at your blood type, your pH, etc., and put them all together and give you a very individualized diet and supplement regimen.
And the Mercola's on which of the sites? Then? Oh, I see it. Yeah,
That whole website
Yeah.
is for Mercola's one.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the I've listened to Dr. McCullough for years, and he's wonderful advice. But he sometimes tends to be a little bit biased towards certain diets and things like that. Will his evaluation follow his guidelines, or?
I don't remember his exact guidelines for each type. They probably are at least somewhat biased.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably over quickly to say eat no grains at all if you're this type or whatever, which it can't hurt to cut out grains. I don't really know anyone who needs grains to be healthy for the most part, but I think he goes overboard. I think Ezekiel products are fine for most people.
Mm-hmm.
On my diet guidelines, I eat some of the grains that I think are the healthiest and the safest for most people. GoRaw.com is another sprouted grain product in a lot of health food stores. Sourdough is fermented. Even white flour sourdough, I think, is okay to have some of.
Really?
Fermentation.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah.
I've been avoiding all breads and grain. I'll occasionally go for potato bread or something like that.
Yeah, if you have to eat white flour, I'd eat sourdough because anything fermented pretty much is very
This
healthy.
Oh, that's
Fantastic.
great news. Is that-
There's a big difference between one baker and another. Obviously, something from Whole Foods or Mom's, and look at the labels very carefully. There's a wide, just because it says sourdough, it could be awful. So once again, you have to be an educated consumer.
Well, I do bread so infrequently. I tend to go to something like Great Harvest or something like that.
Yeah, that's fine. Great Harvest they're in that category.
Bread's a treat,
Yeah. No, Great Harvest and also Spring Mill up in Bethesda, and their stuff is sold in-house at Mom's. And I think it's some of the best in the area. If you're going to pay somebody to bake your bread, if you're going to make your own, you can go there and get a 5-pound sack of what had been sprouted and make your own. So that obviously the best if you do it at home.
Speaking of which, Mom's is my favorite supermarket. They tend to have a lot of local stuff and all organic. Also, it really tastes more like a cake than a bread, but manna bread. Both of them being biblical.
Yeah, manna is
It's in the
good.
frozen department next to Ezekiel bread. That's 100% sprouted, low temperature cooked. No gluten added.